Morning, folks. Denis Daigle, Tiny Life Takeover. I just got the call from the cabinet maker. My kitchen is on the way. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. Let's get it rolling. Yeah. So as we're bringing in the kitchen and setting it up, it'll actually take a few more weeks before all the components are in place. So I think I'm gonna piece this video together so that you can see the full transition, and then I can talk about the choices that I've made, and then it'll all make sense in the end. Here's hoping anyways. So stay tuned for all of that. So thanks for watching along, and I'm having so much fun kind of articulating these things, and thank you for all the comments. And this is a wonderful community, and I'm discovering that more and more as we all build, live, and make good with our ideas and concepts of tiny living, which is 200 square feet, 400 square feet, or whatever size. It's all about that exercise of reducing what you have, changing your life, and being more mindful and sustainable and everything else that comes with that. So here's to you for going against the grain and choosing a different path. All right, so I think they're on their way, so let's bring these in, shall we? Now, just before I head out there, I think it's important that I give you some context around this kitchen. So I mentioned that I did hire a designer to help me with it, because I believe that some people have just different perspective, and it's important to bring those perspectives in. And here's a great example. So when I invited this designer in, this stove is the only thing that was in here. The walls were still studded and insulation, everything else. So she just saw the stove, the hearth, and then kind of nothing else. And from that, I told her, you know, I'm looking for farmhouse style. I'm going to be putting some shiplap, and also the cupboards that I want to put up there, I want them to be closed cupboards, not a lot of open shelving. I learned that from many YouTubers that have a wood stove, had open shelving, and the smoke does end up leaving some black residue on stuff that's just out in the open. So I knew I wanted closed cupboards for that. But I said I want it to be white. So, you know, white walls, white cupboards, you know, the whole whitewashing everything. And she was like, okay. So she took all of that in, and then she went on her way. And then she contacted me and she said, Denis, I want to show you my idea of what your kitchen could be, but it's bold, so prepare yourself. I'm open-minded. I said, sure. So let me show you what she sent me. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, and from that moment on, I was convinced. Loved the contrast and also the way that it pops out of the wall. They say the kitchen sells the house, so it got me super excited to go down that path. And as you'll see the kitchen evolve, that's the vision, direction that we've been taking it. Okay, truck's pulling in. Let's go. And here is how we've dealt with the wheel well that's there, and the cabinet has stopped short. Sure, you lose a bit of space here, but it's there if we need it in the future.
That's right.
So my good buddy Norm here is teaching me about a helper. See, we have to put this cabinet next to this one, and by tying in a helper, it'll just kind of sit on top of that. And that's a tip from the pro. Let's see how this is done. Wow, striking difference. now that it's all in here. So a few things that I've learned already. So I had gone with a designer to design the kitchen. When I handed that plan to the cabinet maker, because it wasn't what they're used to, because they actually have a designer at the shop that does their own drafting, and then when they hand it to the cabinet maker, it's just like clockwork, they know exactly what to do. So in this case, because I used my own designer to then give the plan, they got a few things wrong, but that's okay. We'll make do with what we have. And now that's a lesson learned from me, that the next time that I would do this, whoever makes the cabinets, to ask them how they like their plans, and then work with whoever we need to make sure that those plans look the same. Now we know the difference. Another lesson learned. All right, so moving on, attaching this bad boy up on the wall. One of the things that I wanted to mention at this point is when we were building the tiny house, we wanted to make sure that there was a place where we could actually drill to the outside of the wall. Now, I shouldn't have any studs in the way, but what I'm going to do first is poke a couple of these holes just to inspect and make sure that I'm not hitting anything I shouldn't. So now we're going to officially pierce to the outside with the usual implement. Looks like a narwhal. So one thing that my dad suggested, which I've also seen for other things that we've done in here, is instead of going straight out, we're going to give it a bit of an angle so that any condensation will run down outside, because that's what we're trying to eliminate, is any water buildup from cooking, and as well as the smells and everything else. So let's pierce this thing. It's okay. It'll be all right. All right, so we're all tuck taped up, and look at what my dad found. Perfect. Something that is going to stop the squirrels from going for the stove. So you weren't using that?
Nope.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
All right, let's see what we can do. Little black paint. Boom. That looks okay. And just like that, ready to cook. Quick lesson that I want to talk about. We installed the fan, and I turned this fan on high, and all of a sudden I look at my wood stove and it is sucking the smoke out of the wood stove into the tiny house. So if I'm going to open this up in the future and there's a fire going, I have to create some other way for oxygen, for air to come in here. So to anybody who will stay here in the future, I'll have to remember that fact. You got a fire going and you turn this on and there's no other air coming in, it's gonna suck the smoke out of this. I didn't take a video, but it looked like this was the chimney and all of the smoke was coming in. I wish somebody would have said something to me, so hopefully this can help somebody in the future. Another thing worth mentioning on the Blowberg system, so I have one here and I won't have one on the other side. There's a certain setting that makes it kind of a tunnel. So basically if you go on maximum, one side will just suck in the air and the other side will take it out. So it creates that tunnel. So again, a really great setup that's worked well to help exhaust all of that smoke in this house. All right, my friends, well, I'm all showered and this place still reeks of smoke, but it's all part of learning and doing what we need to do to figure things out. So what's next? What are we waiting for? We have one piece of cupboard that we need to put in place. Then the kitchen sink goes in, and then the hot water tank that's sitting right there is going to go underneath, and a few other things from that point of view. But I also wanted to show you what else is ready and good to go. So I have my bench that's in place now, and my work area is all coming together. It's one way for me to test what it's like to work in one zone of the tiny house and then relax in another zone of the tiny house. And also, I've been staying here for probably a month now, sleeping on the couch. I'll show you just quickly what that looks like in the evenings. I find it pretty amazing how these big windows actually act as a way to double the size of the room when it's dark outside. An added bonus I was not expecting. So here's my typical setup for the evening. Basically, it's kind of like a single cot. It's just one of the sections of the couch that's brought out. Got the fire going. These big windows, when the moon comes across, it's blinding me and I actually have to drop down the shades because it's too bright and it wakes me up. And then typically, this is how I go to sleep. Oh, and an update to my previous video. I needed my drinking water problem solved, so there we go. 2.2 gallons, and it looks just like it fits in a spot that I wasn't sure how I was going to use it, so it turned out beautiful. So with that, my friends, I'm going to leave you to it. Thank you for watching, following along, and I'm doing this just so that you get to live through this as I live through this. All right, enough gabbing. I need to get to work. Take care of each other, and God bless.